Welcome to the Seven Figure Builder Show. My name is Julie Baranek, founder of Seven Figure Builder, where we help high achieving CEOs free up time with gorgeous automations to scale their business to seven figures and beyond. And I'm here today with my friend Sarah Funk. Hey, Sarah.
Hi, it's so nice to be here.
I'm glad to have you here. So, for people that have not had the pleasure to meet you yet, can you tell us just a little bit about what you do with your business?
Yeah, so I help product creators and course creators to create digital products and even software that helps their clients and customers save their own time, but also provides the business owners the ability to multiply their efforts. Like whatever it is they do best, I help them magnify that using software.
Awesome. And what kind of software do you typically help them with?
So there's two different sides of it. So one is using spreadsheets and the power of spreadsheets to turn your services into a replicable process for your clients. And then two, you can even take that spreadsheet once you have a line or like a process down pat and take that process and then turn it into your own custom software that's written and designed for you.
Nice. So, would that be like an app type of software, or what type of software do you create then?
Yeah, so typically it's a web app. So basically you're taking this thing and then so the clients will sign into your own website. It can be hosted on WordPress or whatever server you use. And then it's just a full build out web app. So it's a little bit different than a mobile app because it's kind of like how Zoom is its own thing that you use. So you can download the mobile app, but you don't need to. You use it online and the process is housed online on a web browser.
Okay. So, from a geeky side, my perspective, is it more like a hybrid app, like it's within the web browser, or?
Yeah, so it starts out as a web browser app. So it starts
Okay.
out as that, and then you can turn it into a mobile app. But the usually, at least from the developer side, it's a little bit easier to start with a web app and iron out the process when it's a really complicated process, and
Mhm.
then turn that into a mobile app.
Okay. So, what would be, for people that are not familiar with this at all, what would be the advantage of doing that? Like, why would somebody want to do that?
So I started as a flower farmer and a florist. And one of the things I helped my clients do that were other flower farmers was figure out their planting schedules. And so when you are planting to mass produce, you have to have all the dates lined up and you have to plant the same flower continuously throughout the summer in order to make sure you have enough stems on a regular basis. So what I did was I turned this into a spreadsheet. Like you input where you're growing, where you live, what your dates are, what you want to grow, and then the spreadsheet gives you all of the details you need. It tells you when to harvest it, when to plant it, when to start the seeds, when to plant the seeds outside, and then when to do that again in 2 weeks or 10 days or whatever the time frame is for that specific variety. And then it houses all of that information in one simple spreadsheet. But the problem is that spreadsheets are clunky and messy, and it like is still you enter that overwhelming feeling. And so then I took that and made it into an actual web app so that you can have a product library and you can see all of the different things that you're growing visually and still have all of the powerful automations that tell you what to do and when to do it so you don't have to think about it anymore. And so this same process can be used in so many different avenues. For instance, if you are a PR coach or you have a PR agency and you have a list of journalists that you use and you have a list like what different publications they do. So you take your clients and you say, okay, this is what you do. This is what's interesting about like your business. And these are different headlines we could use. Let's say you have a bank of 30 or 50 headlines. And then you match up each client with the journalist and which publication they use to try to pitch to them. And you have a template for your pitches. So this would basically take that process and say, okay, I have this pitch template. I have these different headlines. You could have the client go into your web portal and they could self-select, okay, this is what I'm interested in. This is what I do. And then you could auto-populate those different headlines, 10 different headlines. You could auto-populate a pitch template for them, like even 3 different versions using their freebie, what they do, what they offer, and what's unique about them. And then you would have it sync up to all of these different journalists that you would email. So it just does it all automatically for you. Basically, it replicates what you do into software so that your client feels that high touch personal value from working with you in an automatic way so that you can replicate what you do as a service provider without investing more of your own time for the pieces that you do over and over again.
Gotcha. So, going back to your original description of your spreadsheet that you started with, that like totally clicks in my head because that's, I remember when I was, excuse me, planting my first gardens at my house. And I would go through and try to analyze everything. And like, I'm very logical, analytical in my brain. So I remember getting analysis paralysis of reading all the books, and I need all these different flowers and different seasons and different timings and trying to format it all out. And I got to the point where I had a plan, and then I'm like, now what? I don't know if this is going to look good. I had no idea what the heck I was doing. And fortunately, my husband is a gardening genius, so he helped take that off of my plate. But I can totally identify like with the spreadsheet that you had mentioned and the app that you created. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, because it's basically like our brains are designed to protect us from thinking, right? And so when we want to learn a new skill or do something new, our brains will be like, oh, let's just keep learning about it rather than doing it, because there's so much risk involved in actually doing something. So you almost need, at least in my life, I found I need something to overwrite the let me just keep learning instead of actually doing thing. And I found that this process does that for me because it forces the solution on me. It says, no, this is what you do so that you don't have to keep thinking or keep learning about it.
Right. And gives you that step-by-step process of this is what you need to do, and this is how you would implement it. So I think that's really cool. So essentially you have then a framework that you created for that, your original use case, we'll call it. And I don't want to get too techie because that's where my brain's going. But you had this framework that you created for your flowering business, and then you were able to turn it into something that was reusable and repurposable for other businesses.
Exactly. And because I just think that there's so many people out there, especially like creating resources that teach people how to do things, right? And then you move into the service provider world where they are like, they have clients that don't want to keep learning things. They need something just to happen for them. And so I feel like this is the perfect solution of in the middle. But for the people that know that they need something done for them, that is speaking from a client perspective, know they need something done for them, but like they may not be able to afford or even have the time to work with a service provider, because if you are super busy and have too many things on your plate, you need someone to make decisions for you and to give you a finalized product. You don't need to just keep researching things or keep learning about things. You need to actually do the work. And so this is a way to do the work both on a service provider side and as the client to do it. Yeah.
So for someone who's listening to this thinking this could apply to my business, where should they start?
You basically put the whole process of what you do, if you're a service provider or course creator, what you do, what your client customer journey is in a spreadsheet. And most people make spreadsheets that are designed to be used like they house your data, or they are designed to answer simple questions, or they always require more work. And what you want your spreadsheet to do is to alleviate work for your customer. So if, for instance, I would love a copywriter to do this, is to take all of the copywriting templates I buy over and over again and put them into a spreadsheet and say, okay, this is your title, or this is you enter in what your product is, what's unique about you, because you can distill all these into simple steps and then add that as like a templated option so that it auto populates with all of your information. Like that would be completely possible and not that hard once you have all those copywriting templates done. And so stuff like that just goes the extra mile for your clients so that when you are working with them one-on-one, like you can use that time to actually spend with them and not just going over the same repeatable process that you use all of the time.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And I always feel like anything in automation, one of the hidden benefits to it is it forces you to document that process. It forces you to think through all those individual steps and figure out everything that lives in your head that you do over and over again, and put it on paper, and then figure out, okay, how do I make this work more efficiently, more effectively, and scalable, and all of that. So I totally agree. Like it's super helpful when you have those repeatable things to write them down. I'm totally a spreadsheet geek, so I have 1,000 spreadsheets for everything. Like that just works in my brain, but it's super helpful to lay things out. And then once someone gets to that point, they could then reach out to you and have you turn that into more of a web application where people could pick and choose different things and make it more modular and make it customizable for whatever that scenario.
Because what it is, you can use Airtable or even Notion for a lot of these things, but if you need custom outputs and you need a lot more variability, you can't always get that with Airtable. So like I tried that route first. So what happened was with my business, I started doing spreadsheets and then I moved into Airtable and I kept getting more and more complicated with my scripts and things like that. And then I told my husband, I was like, I just want this to output a year-long planner. Like I want to have a full printable planner that comes from the spreadsheet. And he goes, I could just write that for you. I could just, and I was like, I had no idea you did that. So that's what he's been doing our whole married life, but whatever. So it's amazing though that you can take something and it's not even that big of a web development project. Like it's not that long or that complicated because it's really simple. Once you have the whole user experience down, like you know what they're going to do and you know the whole customer journey and you know where they end up and all of the different variables that go into it. That's the hardest part, is knowing all of the different formatting that has to go into for each unique person based on their choices and their lives. Then once you have that down, it's not that hard to turn it into something custom and amazing that feels really high touch to your customers and that they want to keep coming back to for over and over again. Because if it's something that they need in their life and it saves them that much time and that much effort, then they just keep coming back.
Yeah. And I believe wholeheartedly in making it easy for your customers to work with you. And this is a good way to do that, where it makes a good user experience for them, just makes it simple and reusable, and they have a tool that they can use depending on what your business model is. So with you and your husband, it sounds like you're partners together in this. He's more the builder, you're more like the logic and the user experience and figuring that part out. Is that right?
And the marketing side of it too. So I didn't know this about him, but his whole family is full of entrepreneurs now. They all have their own businesses and they all do multiple things all of the time. And so when we first got married, he would spend his friends would come over and they would just hang out and they built like, it was a financial app at that time. They were building a financial app in the evenings. And then it was like digital church bulletins. It's just continuously building stuff. This is the next evolution of that. But I want to ask you a question. So how did you get into spreadsheets and what was your process like?
Oh my goodness. I have used spreadsheets forever. So my background, I started as actually registered nurse in my career. That was my first part of my career. And then I shifted over into IT. And as I shifted to IT and working with different clients, it just became very natural to me in learning spreadsheets. But I remember when I first learned about pivot tables and my eyes just lit up and I'm like, oh my God, I can take all this data and put it into something that like sums it up for me. And that kind of was a light bulb for me that I could really make something configurable, and I use it constantly. And like for my brain personally, I always think about like whenever I figure out a process, I want to figure it out for the 50th time that I'm going to do it. Like I don't do anything once that I don't want to repeat over and over and over again. And in my corporate career, like I've managed teams and I manage them the same way, that you don't provide something to a client that you don't want to do 50 times over because they're inevitably going to ask you to do it again. So you want to make sure that you want to do it again and you do it in a way that you can do it over and over. So that's just how my brain always has been wired. So yeah, as I started digging into spreadsheets and really figuring out what's possible, both from a Excel perspective and then a Google Sheets perspective, like I tend to flip back and forth depending on my use case or whatever I'm doing. I just find it extremely helpful and use it way more than I probably should, but it's very helpful. And especially for mapping out all those steps, like we mentioned earlier, being able to see that data in one place. So, and I'm just a very visual person. So that's extremely helpful for me just to see everything and be able to categorize it and filter it and sort it and all those different things.
I agree completely. I think that's amazing.
So how are different ways that people can use this within their business and apply it with their clients?
Okay, so the first use example is we were working with a coach who built out lead funnels for clients using LinkedIn. And so what we did is we started with her process of intaking clients, and we categorized all of the different clients that she had, where they were in business. So if they were brand new to business and they didn't have a website, they didn't have a lead magnet, all of these basic fundamental things. And then we built out, okay, what is the next 12-week business plan for those brand new clients that don't have a business yet. What do they need to do over the next 12 weeks? And then we're going to turn that into a calendar and a to-do list of these are all the things that your clients need to do for the next 12 weeks. Okay, so then the next category of clients that she had did have a business and they had proven offers, but they may not have had that lead funnel set up and they may not have run ads yet, but were thinking about it. So then we went through questionnaires of like that the client could ask themselves, okay, how many people have bought my offer? We went into the metrics of like conversion metrics and all of that, and then gave them the next 12 weeks of their business and what they need to focus on and how they need to do that. And then we went to the people that had sold organically for years, had all of these funnels set up, but wanted to start maximizing their ad profits and how to do that. So basically we took her different clients and gave them a process of what they needed to do based on the coach's like framework and how she helped her clients grow their business. And then you turn that into something that is easy for the clients to understand and gives them immediate results so that they can get that immediate satisfaction and have that high touch feel from the coach. And so she can even come back in and do coaching calls and do follow-up, but she doesn't need to do the initial intake and strategy with them because she's already done the pre-work ahead of time.
Right.
Another use example with a business owner I was talking to this week, she has a subscription sewing box. And so she created a spreadsheet that is full of all of these different sewing patterns because it's so hard. I don't know if you sew or not, but it's so hard to find sewing patterns online now because it's just flooded. And I was even going at one sewing website the other day and could not even find girls' dresses for my daughter because the website had so many things on it and it was impossible to search. So she basically created a spreadsheet that has hundreds and hundreds of patterns listed into it. And then you enter in like the size you want, all of these different things, and it finds all of these different patterns for you, and then will say classify it based on the sizes, the age range, the color, the style, all of these different things, even the season. And so she's going to turn that into a web app that makes it super easy for her customers to find all of these different patterns and then buy them, and then also store their patterns that they've already bought on her web app because it just creates it so much easier. And so she could get on a call with these customers or answer all of these emails of people saying, I just need a pattern that does this. But instead, she's turning all of her knowledge and her expertise into a system that's repeatable for her clients, where she doesn't have to spend her valuable time on it, but can still provide that level of service through automation.
I love that. That's awesome. And I personally within my business try to take whatever data that my clients give to me and store it in a reusable fashion, meaning basically everything that people tell you is market research. And we need to look at it at that way because it helps us constantly improving our business. And in these instances that you're mentioning, like instead of just having a file with a whole bunch of notes and like things that people want, if you can turn it into something like this and have you guys help them that sort through the data, get it into a place that makes sense, it will help you improve your business that much more so that you can look over the past results and say, okay, all these clients over the past year did this and this, and you have it in a fashion that like you can then use it to improve your business and move your business forward. So I think that's really awesome.
And it's a way of replicating yourself because there's all of this teaching out there about getting VAs and training people to be your VAs and have them on your team. And that's awesome. But I feel like this is a way of saying, okay, how do I take what I do really well and what I do that's different what everyone else does and turn it into something repeatable that doesn't take up more energy or more of my valuable time, right? But still provides that level of excellence and that level of care and that level of like just genuine wanting to help people without taking away what makes you special and what makes you unique.
Totally. And it sounds like this can be used both internal to the business as a tool, like something to gather the information that you have from your clients, potentially as a lead magnet. You could turn some sort of information that you have for your clients into a lead magnet so that people are coming into your world. I'm a total calculator geek with spreadsheets where I punch in one number and it outputs all this other stuff. There's so many different ways you can use it, checklists, lots of different applications, it sounds like, for people within their business, which is really awesome.
Exactly. And it's just all about the output of that high touch feel that, especially when you put all that into a PDF or into, for the sewing client, she's going to have it on her website, but a visual appealing output of that data so that your clients can see it, but not feel overwhelmed. Because I found when I was just selling spreadsheets that it was overwhelming still, because it's still, if you're not a spreadsheet nerd, like it can feel like, oh my goodness, there's all these tabs, I don't know what to do next, and you can just like ping pong around it. But this basically takes that overwhelm feeling out of it and just gives you the results that you need or your client needs.
Awesome. And in my mind, I always go back to Steve Jobs and how his focus was creating that customer experience first, and then the rest of it follows from there, right? So if you have a focus on your customer, you know how you want to help them, you help them the best way possible. And then you look at the tech tools and the ways that you need to support your business. It's a win-win for both you and your customer, because you are way more likely to succeed that way, because you'll end up with very happy customers.
Yeah, I think that's just the whole process of this, is like how to make it the best customer experience and like the easiest for them and the fastest for them too, because we live in a world that needs to be fast. And so this is a way that you can just make what you do faster using the power of the internet, basically.
Totally. That's awesome. So looking forward to the year ahead, what can people expect from you next?
So just more of this. And then we are actually creating content through text messages. I'm a mom, I have 4 kids. And anytime I get out my laptop, I have children like swarming me to play or just to press all the buttons or to close the laptop lid. And so it's basically developing a service that will allow people, will send content prompts through your phone that you can answer through voice memos. So send voice memos back, and then it will post to social media for you.
Very cool. I'm excited to see that.
Yeah, so I'm excited about it.
Awesome. So if you had the attention of the whole world for 5 minutes, what would you tell them?
I think that just to be kind, to view the internet as a place to be kind. I think that's the main thing, is just there's so much like grief and so much trauma and so many like mixed emotions on the online space, and then it becomes hard and you feel like you need to protect yourself and define your own boundaries. And while that's true, you can also just be kind, because that will shine a huge light and make a huge world of difference for everyone around you.
I love it. Absolutely. So how can listeners best support you in your work? Where can they find you online?
Yeah, just go to brilliantlysustainable.com and you'll see information there.
Awesome. And we'll have the links below. Fabulous. Thank you so much for being on today. I really appreciate it. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you, Julie. I think you're amazing, and this was great.
Thank you. And if you enjoyed this episode and you found value in it, please share it and spread the word with other people. And definitely check out Sarah and all the amazing things that they're doing with their business. And I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.